can't teach a kid to be tough. You can teach them to be courageous, but you can't teach them to be tough. Toughness is it's a skill. You have it or you don't have it. Like I said, you can teach some courageousness.
Welcome to the Jamodi Podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it. Today we are joined by the head women's coach of Texas A&M Commerce, Jason Burton. Coach Burton is entering his 9th year at the helm of the program. During the 2019-20 season, Coach became the all-time winningest coach in program history. He's guided the Lions to reach the program best, ranking number 2 in the WBCA poll during the 2021-22 season. In 2020, Coach Burton earned the LSC Coach of the Year award. He's also part of the Women's Basketball Rules Committee. Before we hear from Coach, take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on social media at Jamodi Podcast. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to talk hoops with me. This is a busy time of year for you, and then even more, we'll talk about your program and some good things that have happened. But like you kind of mentioned earlier, off the show, just some of those consequences. But just thank you so much, man.
No, man, I appreciate you for inviting me on. I'm looking forward to being able to talk basketball, man. It's been, like I said, it's been kind of a crazy last few weeks for me, and so this is good to get a reminder of why you do some of the things you do, and so I'm looking forward to today, man, and the time I get to spend with you.
Awesome. We tell our players all the time, like, you may have difficult things going on in your life, stressful things, but use basketball, that hour, that 2 hours, as kind of an oasis, like away from it, just disconnect. And I think talking hoops for us might do the same thing.
This is the perfect time. Because normally this is our workout time. And so last Friday was our last workout. We're now in a dead week this week, next week's finals. Then they get to go home for a little while. And so this is our first week without having workouts. And so I'm already like, what do I do at this time? And I fly out tomorrow, actually. I fly out to Indianapolis. I'm on the National Rules Committee, which is a pretty cool deal. Like, I was a part of moving the 3-point line back last year. I was in the room when we voted and it got passed.
That's cool, man.
It's an unreal experience to kind of be a part of that. This is not a rule change year, but to even be in those conversations, like, we fly out tomorrow, and then I'm there Wednesday or Friday on that committee. And so,
how many people cool on that committee?
It's like, I don't want to lie. I want to say it's like 10 coaches and administrators, and then you have the head of officials for the NCAA, and then you have there's a head of officials, and then there's another the national rules chair, and then you have a couple people from the NCAA office. So there'll be like 16 of us in the room,
deciding the fate of everyone.
Of everybody. And it's crazy because I was just some of the discussions I got to be a part of, and some of the things I'm like, where did they even, like, who even thought that was a good thing to even talk about or think of? And I feel like I did us some solids last year, at least on the women's side. So there's two different committees. There's a women's committee, and men's committee. I'm on the women's, obviously, and then but I feel like I was instrumental in implementing the challenge. We got to challenge block charge calls this year, and that was something that I fought for, and I think helped to push that one along. And there were other things there's so many things that you're like, why are we even talking about this? Like uniforms and things like that.
About this. There's more important things.
The size of the logo on the shirt and things like that. But it's really out of all the committees I had an opportunity to be on, or I wanted to be on, I didn't think, like, I didn't want to be on the National Rules Committee, but I was like, let me get in the door. Yeah. And I'm like, man, this is so interesting. And it's because you're talking about the game, and like what we decide in these meetings determines the game and the direction that college basketball is going. So we can talk about all the stuff that goes on off the court and the NILs and things like that, but the actual game itself, like, to be a part of the game is something special.
That responsibility to me is huge, and I can kind of hear it from you how serious you take it and how honored, because I think all of us normal people just sitting out here complaining about the high school game, the college game, the pro game, but none of us will ever actually be in a position to do something about it,
Yeah.
besides just complain to no one. And so you're actually doing that. That's incredible. What are your thoughts on the four quarters versus two halves? That's a big difference between the men and women's game.
Yeah, I was against it at first because I'm like, why are we changing? Why are we changing college basketball? But then we got into it, and it's just like a natural flow. Like it's. I think the women's game is ahead of the men's game in a couple aspects. I think the quarter aspect is one thing, because now college men's basketball is the only basketball game that
Only
is
one.
10 halves.
Yep.
And they still have the 1-and-1 and everything, and which it's good and it's bad. I do like the 1-and-1, but I think the end of the game situations, like I like that the advance the ball that women have. I think that's a great piece to the game. That is just it's more like the pro game.
Yeah.
And so much of the conversation that we have on this committee are about helping to transition and kind of make uniform, European basketball, pro basketball here, college basketball here. And that's like one of the main things that's like men's basketball is just holding on to is halves. And so,
I mean, what do you think it is? Do you think it's the fact that and it's not about age, but there are just on that other side, some purists or guys that are just unwilling to change the product that they've been watching for, the last few decades, because you're right on the money. In so many ways, college basketball is the last group besides Texas high school, with the shot clock, but some of those things.
What I think it's about is money. I think a lot of decisions get made based off of money, and what the halves do. It puts in one more TV timeout.
Wow.
So you have a 16, 12, 8, and 4-minute media timeout when you do halves. So that's 4 timeouts. When you do quarters, it's only a under 5-minute media, the quarter break, and the under 5-minute media. So there's 3 media timeouts. So that's what I think it's about. I think it's about money. I don't know that for a fact. That's just my guess.
But I mean, the amount of dollars that go into, if you could figure out the amount of money that goes into one media timeout, and then the hole that would make, yeah, I could see that being something real.
Especially when you look at the number one moneymaker for college athletics is the March Madness tournament. So you're talking about one less media timeout in all those games.
Yeah, the compound effect there is huge.
Yeah, it probably boils down to a lot of money. And so that's my personal opinion. I don't know if that's fact, but that's what I would say.
I love getting to talk to coaches at high levels that not only are great leaders themselves, but surround themselves with or play against other great leaders. So what's one quality or several qualities that you just think are important that great leaders have?
Oh, man, it's funny. I picked these questions, and I've had so many things happen between looking at these questions and now, and I'm sure I had a different answer at the time. But I think one thing that's important for leaders is to enable other leaders, right? Like you have to, for me as a head coach, I want to, one, hire really, really great people that know what they're doing, they're competent, that love people, that fit our culture, that compliment me. But at the same time, I got to be able to relinquish control and empower them and allow them to do things. And I think a byproduct of that is the more you pour into your coaches and you enable them you trust in them to do their job. One, I think there's more ownership that they take in your place. Two, I think for me, like when I have other coaches that are high level coaches in practice, it allows for there not to be a dip in practice. So what I mean by that is if we got a 2-hour practice, it's going to be hard for me to be on 10 the whole time and the whole time. But
it'll wear you out.
Yeah, I can tell you, hey, Coach Stamen, I need you to get the first 10 minutes of practice. I need you to get practice going. I want the energy high. I want us going. I want you to set the tone for practice. Then I can jump in and I can go hard for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. We can have a defensive segment next, but it allows for one. I think when head coaches and when leaders empower their assistants, it allows them to have a bigger voice when it comes to the team, when it comes to the buy-in from the team, the trust in the team with not just the assistant coaches, but everybody. And it also shows that it shows trust. Like when a head coach trusts his assistant coaches to do their job or her assistant coach to do the job, why shouldn't I trust them? And so I think just being somebody that empowers others to have success. And I think too, and I'm not the best at it, but I'm trying to get better. I've tried to empower our players to have more of a voice too. I think that you want that same buy-in, that ownership from your players. And so, we got to the conference championship game this year. We got to the second round of the NCAA tournament this year. And sometimes you don't get to pick those shoot around times. You get some very early shoot around times and you don't play till 8 o'clock at night. And it's like, I don't think the team wants to go to shoot around, but let me ask them. And before I wouldn't ask them, I would make the decision myself. And I was surprised this year because 2 times we had a late game, but we had a really early shoot around. And I asked the team, I said, look, it's up to you guys. If you guys would rather sleep in, let's sleep in. But if you guys want to go to the gym and you want to do the shoot around, let's do the shoot around. So it's only 30 minutes. So we'd be waking up. We may be driving 20 minutes to practice 30 to go back home. And both times they told me yes. And they're like, well, we got time to sleep. We got time to nap during the day. So we'll nap during the day. And I was really caught off guard because I was not going to go. And it made me feel like, okay, we're probably ready for these games. Like it really made me feel good as a head coach that they chose to do it. And I just felt like empowering them in those moments. It helped with the buy-in of the team too. So, and the buy-in, there were 2 really good shoot-arounds for early morning shoot-arounds, and we don't have good early morning shoot-arounds ever. So,
man, that's pretty genius. If you can and you didn't manipulate them in any way there, but if you can get them to make that choice on their own, like if you would have mandated it, just human nature would say, well, because you want me to do this, you're telling me to do this, I don't want to do this. But that choice is huge. Let me ask you, you said something interesting about giving up control, and golly, that's just such a hard thing to do. Have you always been that way, or was there a time where you transitioned, and what made you do that?
No, I definitely wasn't always that way. I think anytime you take over a program, especially with new people, you feel like you want to get it right. And you want your hands in everything. You want things to be ran a certain way. And I think when I got to the point where I had some retention of my staff was really an extension of me. They knew our system. They knew what I wanted, but they also, I had enabled them to have voices, at least within our meetings and things like that, they took off. They took whatever they were given and they ran with it. They did a great job. And for me, it was the more that they did a great job with the stuff that they were given, I wanted to continue to give them areas to improve and to be better. And eventually you're trying to develop other head coaches. I felt like we started really having success here when I had multiple head coaches within the program. And even though they weren't a head coach by title here, they were ready to leave here and be head coaches. And so, Marquise Brown, he just accepted the head coaching job at Oklahoma Christian University. He's going to go there and do a phenomenal job. He's been a head coach within this program for the last 4 or 5 years. And then I had Jean Marie Wilson here the year before, who was us 3 on a staff together. She had been with me for 3 years. And in her 3rd year, I felt like she was turning the corner as far as being somebody that could be a head coach sooner rather than later. And she's somebody that's, in her mid to late 20s. Coach Brown's 40 now. And so a younger coach and an older coach, but I felt like she was somebody that was turning the corner as far as being able to be a head coach. And it showed because last spring she had I think 3 jobs that she was in the mix for a head coaching job. And the minute people start calling you, asking you to apply, you're in that ballpark of being a head coach. She left last spring. She's from DC. She went back home to Howard to be the recruiting coordinator there, had a great season, went to the tournament, won the first round game. They played that playing game, and then they turned around and had to play South Carolina, the eventual national champs, and ran into a buzzsaw. But I think she went there and made that place better. And I think that's what, for me, as you pour into your coaches and you give that, it's that early investment can really, reap benefits for you because I felt like I had multiple head coaches that I could give them something I knew was going to get done, and it allowed me to stretch and be able to do other things that we weren't doing before. Like I can be more involved in fundraising. I can be more involved in the fan engagement, trying to get, our attendance the last few years has been besides the COVID year, our attendance has been the best it's ever been because we've just been able to I've been able to do more things. I've been able to concentrate on basketball more. You'd be surprised at how much people ask me all the time, like, what do you do during your day? Like, what do you do when it's not basketball season? I'm like, if you only knew all the stuff behind the scenes that goes to keep this machine going.
Just changing the rules of the game on a committee, no big deal.
But people just think that we coach basketball and the mentoring and the academic help and the different things that go on behind the scenes. I've had some really great people around me that, when you pour into them, just tenfold what we got back as far as, the product within our program, the type of coaches we've had here. So that's to me what it's all about. And it's made it very tough to replace them because now you have such high expectations but
you almost have to start over, with a new group. Yeah.
And it's the time right now too. Like we're transitioning to Division I. We'll be Division I next month. And but it's also it's a clean slate. It allows you to kind of reconfigure some of the things where now that we're at this place in our program, you're like, well, I think we can get better in certain areas. And so it's a challenge right now, but it's fun. And I'm happy for all my former assistant coaches that are having a lot of success right now. And hopefully they've really learned something here that they can take into their next job opportunities and create more leaders for the future. So.
Yeah, it's a little bit about the lens that you choose to view all of these changes by, like going to D1, all these coaching changes happening. But if it's an exciting thing for you, if you view it that way, then I think that helps all of us with our approach to whatever we're doing. You said something about, I think, player ownership, player engagement is something that's talked about a lot. I think assistant coach ownership and engagement is sometimes lost. I just don't hear that talked about a lot. And I think you nailed it. How many programs do the players truly view assistant coaches differently than they view the head coach as less than, as just a different level? Obviously, with authority, there's a little bit of truth, but when you enable the coaches like you've done, you get more buy-in from them, but the players start to view them in a different way, right?
No doubt. I think so. For me, I think some of this change is good because I get a chance to, get re-energized. I felt like well, one, I've been very comfortable. I've just been blessed with, like I said, great coaches around me, but it allows me to kind of get back into the details of things. And that's where, anytime you have huge turnover like this, it allows me to, I have to go back and talk about the details, and it kind of sharpens me a little bit. And I think too, so from our player standpoint, that's going to help because we've had a lot of success in recent years because of when you have success, you're able to get better players and get better players. So we won a lot of games on talent, but I think the last couple of years we've kind of missed some steps in the details. And so this year, just with a new staff coming in, I think I'm going to be able to get back into some of the details that I may have missed with this current team. And I have a lot of players back but I do believe so much that our players have really felt like our staff was a really good staff. They could go to anybody for help, that they were going to get real answers, that they were going to be able to get their issues resolved or solved. And I really feel like they've had some really, really good and genuine relationships with our staff. And I think that starts with just empowering our staff and making sure that our players know that if you're talking to one of the assistant coaches, it's like talking to me. it's just worked for us over the years, and we'll continue to hire good people and allow them to have a strong voice. And I'm excited. We got a former player coming back into the fold on the staff this year that, man, she was such a great player for us. And that's one other thing that I think I've done or that we've done here in my time here is we've hired former players. This is going to be our fifth former player to join my staff in 8 years.
Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Ballology. What's your BSA score? The Ballology Skills Assessment is the only verified skills metric endorsed by the NAIA, NJCAA, and a growing number of NCAA coaches to discover and develop the best talent for your team. This 4-minute, 40-shot test can be taken free today on the Ballology mobile app. Elevate your game. You have this new crop of coaches that's going to be coming in. And so you're not just teaching your players about your standards, your culture, the way that you do things every day. You're also going to be teaching those coaches. So what are some of those standards or pillars or the culture of your program that you're going to be showing them right off the bat?
So like we if you see us on social media, we hashtag fast pace on everything. And that's twofold. That's one is how we want to play, but two, that's our core values. So the fast is family, it's accountability, it's service, it's toughness, and the pace is passion, it's appreciation, it's competitiveness, and it's excellence. And those are the things that we want to strive for. We want it to be first of all, we want it to be a family environment. Like we spend so much time with each other, man. We become family, and within the family, you got good days, you got bad days, you got times where you get along great, you got times where there's conflict, but at the end of the day, you gotta be a family that loves, and I really feel like love is talked about in our play, within our culture, and it's lived as well. Accountability, you got to be willing to be held accountable, and you got to hold other people accountable, hold yourself accountable. Competitiveness, man, I really believe in that. I want to fast that service. I believe in giving back, and I believe that as coaches too, we got to have a servant leader mentality. Like we're here to serve. We're here to serve this university. We're here to serve our players.
Yeah,
we're here to serve each other on the staff. That's the mindset that we try to have. The T, toughness, man. You can't win without toughness, and especially just, man, you look at COVID and you look at just this last 2 years, man. You better have some type of mental toughness to get through this.
Yeah,
it's hard. You talk about mental health, man, but there's a lot of the great thing about student athletes, man, is you're developing just tough leaders. I think there's so many, man. If you can get out of college athletics and have had and made it through 4 years, like
yeah,
it's almost
you get a badge at the end of that. Yeah,
but what it does to you mentally, as far as like, man, I was a college athlete. This is nothing for me. I see so many of my former players and what they're doing now and how they're leaders. That's because they were able to balance being a student, being a high level player, and do all that and have success. And they found their way out of that and time managed that whole thing. And I'm sure they probably had a lot of fun on the weekends and weeknights and all that too. Like you're able to balance all that student athlete life and you have success. And then go to pace real quick.
Coach, let me pause before pace at the T. Question for you. You get a kid that is talented and skilled, but lacks toughness. How much can you put that into that player? Or do they need to have a certain level of toughness when they get to you? Yeah. And then you can maybe help maximize that.
It's a great question.
I don't know the answer, so I want to know.
My good friend in coaching, his name is Chuck Taylor. He was on the men's side for a long time. He's actually back on the men's side. He's a JUCO head coach back in Alabama now, but when I first met him, he was at South Alabama as an assistant, and he became a head coach at Paris Junior College. So he's all on the men's side. And we used to talk about toughness, and he used to always say, you can't teach a kid to be tough. You can teach him to be courageous, but you can't teach him to be tough. And we would talk about that all the time. And it was funny. He would say, hey, that sucker, that dude, he's courageous, but
I love it. I love that.
Toughness is it's a skill. You have it or you don't have it. You can and like I said, you can teach some courageousness.
Like your vertical. I mean, I did a ton of jumping things back in the day, and it took me from here to here. It did improve it a little bit, but I did not have a large capacity to begin with there. And maybe, I think that's something.
And here's an example. Here's two examples of toughness versus courageousness. There's some kids that you're just like, that dude is going to lay his body on the line. They're going to take a charge every time. It's not a question like, oh, I'm there, I'm taking a hit. That's what it takes to get the win. And then you got the occasional person that can be courageous in the moment. And a lot of times it was just wrong place, wrong time. I couldn't move out the way fast enough. So
got hit.
You got kids that are tough kids that I'm a guard 94 feet the entire game because that's who I am. I got a high motor. I'm determined this is what coach wants. And then you have the kid that is, okay, it's the end of the game and we're down 10 with 3 minutes left. I'm gonna bend my knees and do it for a 3-minute segment. And you're like, why isn't this who you are all the time? Like I just think there are times where you got people that act courageous, but that's not truly who they are. And then you got some players that are just toughness. That's who they are. They come, they bring it every day. Doesn't matter what the situation is too. There's physical and mental toughness. And I think that you just got some kids that they're gonna make it in life because they've made it through situations that you're like, man, I don't know, I can make it through that situation. But here you are doing it with a smile on your face, and you're here. You're just resilient. There's certain things that, sometimes by the time you get to us in college, you have so much life experience that like some kids are just built different, and they're built with a certain mental toughness, and there's some that haven't had to have some of the same like upbringings as far as having opportunities to show your toughness. And sometimes you get here and kids are more tough than we think they are. They just hadn't had the opportunity to show it.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think I needed to hear that because that idea of, I mean, I'm at a private Christian school and great kids, but the toughness level, I'm always wanting it to be more at times across the board. But that idea of, I've heard you can't teach it. If they don't have it, they don't have it. But then I love that distinction between toughness and courageous. We have tons of courageous kids here. Tons.
There's some kids
great moments. Yeah. All right, go on to pace.
There's some kids that just hadn't had the opportunity to.
Yeah.
And sometimes life brings out some toughness that you didn't know you had.
And maybe as coaches, how can we manufacture opportunities? How can we create an environment where they have conflict, right? I'll say another 2 quick stories now. One, former boss of mine now and then colleague, Sam Walker. He was an evil genius when it came to coaching. He's the best coach I've ever worked for because he would sometimes he would just realize in the middle of the season that we hadn't had enough conflict, and he would come to practice and pick a fight. And he just felt like he had a pulse on the team when he felt like there needed to be some conflict and when there didn't. And he was just a mastermind when it came to that. And I just sometimes I didn't know what he was doing, and he had a reason for everything. And I really respected him for that. And I totally drew a blank on the other thing I was going to tell you. Well, but there's an art to that, and because that's beyond X's and O's. There's some guys that can outdraw anyone in plays and have this memory, like almost a photographic memory. But if you don't know the pulse of your team, and it's not just know it, but know how to manipulate in a good way and change it to where they need to be, you're missing out on a huge piece. So that art is huge.
No doubt. So I'll go to pace real quick.
Okay.
Passion. I just think you have to have, especially at this level, like you have to love what you do. And us as coaches, them as players, because it becomes too much of a job. There's too much at stake when it comes to wins and losses and what it takes to be successful at this level. You gotta love it. And I'm a firm believer too. Like anything that I'm going to do, anything I'm going to put my name on or spend my time on, like I'm going to give it my all. Just time is the one thing you don't get back.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to spend it, you might as well spend it well and put your all into it. So be passionate about whatever you're going to do in life. If you don't love it, then you probably shouldn't be doing it at this level for sure. Appreciation, man. I believe appreciation goes so, it can take you so far, man. Just thank you and thanking people. I've gotten more with thank yous and showing appreciation than I've gotten with anything else.
Mm.
I just think it goes to how you treat people, man. And when you treat people the right way, they tend to want to do things for you or do tenfold for you what you thought you could have got for them. And so showing appreciation, man, like when we can, we try to give gear to people that help out or just do little things to show appreciation, man. Having conversations with our janitors, our custodians, the people that take care of this building, man, I think are huge. And those people want to, they're the people that on a Sunday afternoon when you forgot your keys are around and they want to help you out and things like that. So I just think showing appreciation is huge. Competitiveness, we compete in everything that we do. Every drill that we do, there is a winner and there's a loser. And we're going to compete for that. And I just think that breeds success when you're competing on a high level in practice all the time. And then excellence, you just got to demand it, man. I think that it becomes part of your brand, man. And that should be, and that's what we want to be associated with is when you think of A&M Commerce women's basketball or A&M Commerce, we want you to associate excellence with that. I think that's why our coaches have gone on and gotten really good jobs and gotten head coaching jobs. I think that's why our players have gone on and had a lot of success in business or playing overseas, whatever, but just demanding excellence in everything we do.
I love the in passion, the P. I was blown away. I mean, I can still remember my college days, and not that far gone. I was blown away by how many of my teammates really didn't have a passion for the game.
Yeah.
You know, at that level, and how I could use that as an advantage for myself, a passion for the game to work harder, to spend more time, to give a little bit more. In your opinion, how many high school players are coming out now that say they want to play or they love the game, but you just don't see that passion in them?
I think they think they're passionate, and then they get here, and they're like, maybe I wasn't that passionate. I also think there's, I mean, I hate to say it, I just think we're playing, I think kids play way too much basketball, man.
Yeah.
I think, you know, it becomes somewhat of a business too. You know, one thing we try to do here, man, is we try to have fun with some of the stuff that we do. I think you can get things done, but still have fun with it. And we had fun this last week of workouts. We had the Commerce Olympics, right? And so,
please share. Please share.
What we did was we wrote everybody's name on a dry erase board, and every event, and there was team competition, there was individual things, but everything had a point total assigned to it. So let's say day one. Day one, first thing we do, we had two teams. We do star shooting. It's a shooting drill. Winner gets 2 points. So everybody on that winning team got two marks by their name. Next thing we do is clean the court. Okay, so we do, you know, 1-on-1 and 2 baskets for 6 minutes. Take the top 2 from each basket to 1 basket. And everybody that made it to the final basket got at least 1 point. But the winner was going to walk away with 4 points. So 4, 3, 2, 1.
Take the top 2 from each basket?
Top 2.
Okay.
All right. So we had 10 people in our off season. So 2 baskets of 5 players. Top 2 scores from each basket. They come back to the championship basket. That's the queen court right there. And then everybody that made it to the queen court got at least 1 point. Winner got 4. Second place got 3 points. Third place got 2. Fourth place got 1. So then we just kept a running tally of everything. We had a 2-on-2 tournament. We had we played 3-on-3 cutthroat. And the next day we did something different. Different shooting drill. We did kill drill. We did 5-on-5. So we had a skills challenge where we, like the NBA skills challenge, you got to dribble around some cone, pass it, hit a target. But the whole thing is so that whole week, are we necessarily just doing skill development? No, but you're competing, and to me, competing at a high level is a skill. Like the more if you're competing at a high level, you're getting better, right? And that's like when you're sprinting against somebody, I don't care what you're doing. If it's me versus you, I'm going to push myself to give my all to win that thing. And it's the same thing with basketball. If you're pushing yourself in a drill and you're trying to win, then you're doing that thing at full speed. You're doing it. If you're trying to hit a target, you're trying your best to be accurate with your stuff. If you're trying to make a shot the first time, so you can hurry and get down, like you were working on. I got to shoot this with the right follow through. I got to go full speed. It's going to be game speed shots. And so that was our thing the last week is let's have fun. And at the end of the week, we give prizes, whether it was, some more gear or whatever. Try to make it fun. So at the end of the week, we got some out of it. We had fun. And instead of going to the weight room the last day, we played volleyball as a team and they loved it. And I just think that, we're going to work hard at everything we do, but also they got finals coming up. They got papers.
Yep.
They don't need to stress out about, and we don't play a game till November. So we don't have to overdo it all the time. And I think sometimes as coaches, we overdo it when we don't have to. And so that's one of the things. But I think it's on us too to help keep some of that passion alive, because we got to remember at the end of the day, it's a game, and we do this because we love the game that we play. And so you want to continue to make sure your players are loving the game, and you want to keep them. Like, yeah, a lot of the details become monotonous. Like, I got to get 1,000 shots up this week, but okay, how can we change it up and make those 1,000 shots fun? Like, what can we do to make sure we're still having fun? Because I mean, I just think there's you can lose your fun and your passion for the game if you're not trying to find ways to have fun in what you do. So sprinkling ways to have fun in the work that you're going to be doing.
Coach, that's a good nugget. And I'll have to send you a video of the Faith Olympics that we do. And I just think that's so cool. I love the idea of different point totals for things. How many different games do you feel like you had in all, if you could guess?
So we did 4 days worth of workouts, and we probably did 4 workouts a day. So, probably 16.
Okay. I love that. Going back to, because I want to kind of finish up your culture piece. I love the fast pace brand. Like, one, 'cause I feel like we try to do that here at Faith too. But what's unique about those standards or your pillars, those 8 words, is that it goes with the style of play that you want, but then also the type of culture and human beings that you want on your team as well, and things that'll help them. I wonder how many cultures out there, or how many teams have things on their wall that are great, but really don't sync up with, there's a disconnect between those words and actually how they play and do things. Yours seem to both go hand in hand, which is brilliant.
The beauty of COVID, I was sitting around the house and I'm like, just thinking about, what I had to do is and we say fast pace all the time. Like it's one of the things we talk about all the time. Like, we want to play at a fast pace. Like, you get into recruiting pitches and you're talking to families, you're talking to players. We had a really good year in 1920. So I was speaking virtually on all these coaches clinics. And I'm like, I just got to thinking, and I'm like, I think I took our core values from Shaka Smart at a TABC clinic 8 years ago. And I liked what he said, and so I think I just stole his verbatim. And it wasn't ours, so I never really remembered it. I just like it was cool, but we weren't really living that. And so the COVID, you're sitting around, and I just had time to think, and I'm like, what do we stand for? What do we want to do? What is something we say all the time? And I just started thinking about fast pace. We say it all the time. We hashtag it all the time. But what does that mean? And it was easy. Like, the F was easy. And you start thinking about things. Some of the core values that I had on my wall, the appreciation, accountability, was already on there. It just, and the fact that I had 2 A words, I was like, this is lining up. Okay. I had competitiveness on my wall, had excellence on my wall, but I never had the order. And now it's easy to say fast pace and remember it. And it was all things that we were living and doing, but now, like, it just made more sense when I actually had time to sit down, and COVID forced me to sit down and think about my thoughts, think about what I really wanted.
Yeah. You mentioned a little bit ago about how you use social media. Man, probably 15 years ago, I was listening to a podcast. I can't even remember the name of the guy, but he said, if you're a coach and you're not actively using social media to promote your program, you're behind. And as a competitor, I thought, I don't want to be behind. And so I started to, on the limited platforms back then, but then I branched out. And so what are some ways that you use social media to enhance your program?
Man, so we have a staff meeting every Monday morning, and every Monday morning, let me rewind. My last staff, and I say the start of the 1920 season, I had a guy that he had been blowing me up, wanted to be on my staff, wanted to volunteer. He never coached before, and I'm like, dude, he lived in Addison. He just graduated. His mom lived in Addison, and so he was like, I want to get into women's basketball. And I said, if you're willing to drive every day from Addison to Commerce, that's fine. You can.
What's that drive right there?
Like an hour 10.
Yeah.
And the dude did it the entire year. I give and Will Watkins, I give him a lot of credit because he left, and I'm gonna get to where I'm going, but he left our place after a year of volunteering and became the grad assistant at Eastern New Mexico. Then went from Eastern New Mexico to a $50,000 job being the video coordinator for University of Wisconsin. He's from Wisconsin, so that was his dream job. Then he just left Wisconsin. He's now employed by the Dallas Wings. The guy's like 25 years old. So backtrack to him. I had 6 coaches on my staff. I didn't really have a use for them. I didn't know. I went from like 1 coach to 2 coaches to 5 to 6. I'm like, I don't know what to do with you. I said, your job is social media. And I just gave some other things, but like your main job is I need graphics. And they got good. Some of the coaches got good. But when my GAs left that year, I said, the next coach I hire, he's got to give me a social media plan for the year. And he's got to be able to he or she's got to be able to do graphics. And so we got to the point after we hired a young man, every Monday, that's how we started our meeting. So we prayed, talk about academics, then social media plan. And so some of the things that we did was we had a young lady on our team this year named Mackenzie Schott, and we had Mac Mondays, and she was like 5'2", and she bought a tiny mic and she hooked it up to her phone, and she would walk around and ask funny questions to her teammates, or she'd do things. And she was somebody that was a player that was down the line as far as our depth chart was. I thought had a chance to really be good down the line, but we had an All-American point guard in front of her that had some years left, and so. But I loved it. I loved her, and I wanted her to be engaged, and she was just funny too. And so we had talked about her doing a social media show, and she took it and she owned it, and that was one of my favorite parts of our social media this year. We always try to highlight birthdays. We always gonna do a half court shot on game days, so we always put that on social media. One way, and we thought about this a few years ago, but we always want to emphasize defense. And so we have a defensive player of the game after every game.
Not an offensive player.
No. I mean, you already know that, I just believe we want to reward our top defenders. And so you see sometimes on our graphic, it'd be 8 rebounds, 5 deflections, and a charge. And well, charges and deflections aren't going to show up in the stat sheet. Anybody can pick up the stat sheet and see who had a good offensive game.
Yeah.
But you don't know who had good defensive games. And so we wanted to make sure we highlighted people that don't normally get highlighted.
Mm.
And that was one thing that we try to be intentional about doing. Birthdays. We want to highlight alumni, especially we do a thing called a Power Hour in the fall. And Power Hours when we bring in a guest speaker, or a coach may be speaking that day, but we're going to spend an hour trying to pour into or empower our young women. We want to equip them to be successful down the line. And so, that was one thing we always want to highlight, the Empower Hour speaker that came to speak to our team. There's clips from practice, highlights from the games. I can go on the line, but
let me ask you about highlights. Do you do highlights after losses as well?
So what we got to the point where we did highlights of the week.
Okay.
More than anything. And
that's good. That's a good idea.
Big plays from the week. Because sometimes you're on the road
Yeah.
and you for us, and you can't get it down the road. But like on Monday, we can get done the highlights from the previous week,
Man, I like that.
uh, yeah, and so that was one thing that we try to do. I think we did a lot of good stuff, and we were very intentional with our social media, but we wanted content coming out every day. That was one thing. We wanted to be very visible on social media for recruiting purposes.
Yeah.
I really think that's how some of our coaches got noticed as far as jobs, because you were just, if people were following social media, you always saw us. And our Coach Garcia, he started doing the Don Staley challenge. When Don Staley starts retweeting his tweets, you got the hottest coach in the country retweeting our brand, because she was doing,
What's the
like,
challenge?
so she got to the point, like, this is like January, February. She started doing a trick shot. Like, she'd be in
Oh,
these gyms and she'd be in the stands and shoot a shot, or she'd shoot a backward shot, or she'd do whatever. And so these coaches would start recording themselves doing it, put it on social media. Well, the very first one that she retweeted, we did this. He did it at home, and there's a big lion head right behind our goal. And so all you see is, and it got on ESPN. And so you see our brand on ESPN because Don Staley retweeted it, and I'm just like, it's genius right here.
a big takeaway though from this is I mean, whatever the NBA programs are doing trickles down, college programs, it trickles down, and some great ideas here for coaches at any level. But the fact that you're so intentional, it's in your coaches meeting, along with the other things that people associate with winning. But you also, that the value of that, I mean, that's huge.
I think graphics sometimes can take some time to do. And so
Mhm.
if you're trying to do a graphic at the last minute, especially when you're trying to really be good about the brand of your graphic, so when you're waiting to the last minute to do something, you have other things to do, it just can be time consuming in your day. But if on Sunday or Monday you're thinking about what I need to do this week, or if you're thinking weeks in advance, like the more we started doing it, the more he started looking ahead.
Yeah.
Like, hey, next month, National Women's and Sports Day. Next month we have the 4th of July. We got Christmas. So when you start thinking about the holidays that you want to put out stuff, and or you start thinking about birthdays, and you go ahead and do graphics ahead of time, and you have them ready to go. And I thought just the more intentional we were with certain things, signing day is coming up, boom, the recruiting shutdown, whatever it is, or we're about to be on the road, we're going to this city, like, we started being intentional with our stuff, and it just helped us be organized and to get out good quality products all the time.
Yeah. One thing I've done, because I use Photoshop and to do our graphics on, and so occasionally I'll have coaches ask about what I use, and so Photoshop I'm not creative. Like, I can't create anything from scratch. I'll give a shout out to our head girls coach at Faith, Hannah St. Pierre. She is incredible with Photoshop, and she can create her own or take just from someone else online and build it herself. Once I get what those files, which are PSDs, from there, I am competent enough on Photoshop to change colors, do some things. But that's just a trick, because you're right on the money. It's so time consuming
Mm.
to do all those graphics. And so if you are a coach out there that thinks, I just don't know how to do it or what, that's a way. Like, ask people to send PSDs or their templates, and that way you can insert your logo, do some things, and that's just maybe that'll help.
So one of the cool things that we got out of our Empower Hour this year, one of my former players is the lead graphic designer for the Dallas Cowboys. So she put out some fire graphics this year. Like, if you go and look on, I don't know why I just drew a blank on our linebacker's name. I mean, Michael Parsons.
Yeah, yeah.
She's done some really dope ones with him. She worked with the NFL before that. So like last year when Aaron Rodgers got MVP, she had a really nice one of him. She had one for Stephon Diggs when he broke whatever Bill's record was last year for receiving.
Yeah.
I think she just has some incredible graphics. But Micah Parsons always refers to himself as a lion, and so she's got some really good ones with like a lion and him, so our the guy that does all of our video and a lot of our graphics, when I introduced him to her, and she's like 27. Like our guy is older than her. He was like a kid in a candy store.
Oh, I
Get a
bet.
chance to meet her, because when she showed him some of the things that like she's done, he was like in awe. She's like, I mean, I've been trying to do this and this, and they were talking a whole different language that I didn't understand.
Yeah.
But it was cool to see that dynamic happen.
Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Shoot 360. The future of basketball has arrived in Dallas-Fort Worth. Shoot 360 combines the latest sports technology with the fundamentals of basketball skill development. The result is a one-of-a-kind video game-like basketball program designed to improve your shooting, dribbling, and passing. Visit shoot360dfw.com to learn more and register for your free 1-hour workout evaluation. Shoot 360, the future of basketball is here. We talked about fast pace and that outstanding culture that you have.
Yeah.
And we might have already bled into this a little bit, but just to articulate a little more, how does that drive the performance of your program?
I mean, I think that from multiple ways, like just having a high standard when it comes to first, when it comes to recruiting, we're going to recruit a certain type of player, a high level player that I think it starts with our coaches and how we talk and how we collaborate when it comes to recruiting. I've been on staffs where everybody had their guy and they were trying to push their guy because for some reason they felt like if their guy got signed, that was going to get them the next job. Here, we team recruit. Like, we're going to come in here, we're going to talk about who is the best person for our program, who is the best person. Before it was, it was us and Lubbock Christian were two of the better teams in the conference. And Lubbock Christian had won the previous 2 national championships. So when in recruiting, we're like, did this young lady help us beat Lubbock Christian? If they don't meet that standard, then why are we recruiting them? Or are they better than what we currently have? Not, and there's no point. Like, we're always trying to elevate. And so having a high standard and being okay, being told no is something that I've gotten very comfortable with, and that our coaches have to be. If we're getting told yes early on, we're probably not recruiting the right person. And I'm taking that same mantra into how I've hired. I'm gonna shoot for the stars. I'm gonna aim high. And it's funny that just some of the conversations that I'm having in this hiring process that I wasn't expecting to be able to have. But this really, I've gotten told no, but some of those no's are like, nah, coach, I really appreciate the conversation or the consideration. But I think having a high standard when it comes to recruiting the type of players that we want to bring in, and then just that that translates on the floor too. Like, we're recruiting high caliber players here, and then we're trying to hold them to a high standard when it comes to just everything they do. And sometimes it's not easy; it's draining because that high standard is not just on the floor; it's for how they act as young people, it's how they are in the classroom. But I think also too, like, what ties everything together is the love that we have for everybody, man. It just starts with the staff and how we love each other as a staff and how we have each other's backs. And that bleeds into the players. I think they see how we interact with each other, how we're genuine with each other, how we care about one another. So I'm able to get on you, or we're able to get on you, or hold you accountable and hold you to a high standard when it's not just about basketball with the staff. They actually love us. They actually care about us. And I think that's what kind of holds our culture all together.
Yeah, that relationship piece is really important, because without relationship, once it just becomes basketball, it's more transactional.
Yeah.
On both ends between players too. So that transformational culture you're talking about is huge.
Oh, yeah, no, the people they're transferring at a high level right now, and we've had I would say less transfers than most in today's culture, and I'm really proud of how we've been able to retain people. I think winning has a lot to do with that, but it's still, even when you're not playing as much as you like to, it's tough for people to want to stay, and but still people have been bought in. They've stayed here, and we've been graduating a lot of players, so I'm extremely happy about that and how we've been able to retain people, and also how we've been able to elevate our coaches. So it's something's working, and I tell you what's one of the biggest things that's helped me is I read a lot, man, and I actually don't read physical books. I do a lot of Audible. Like when I'm driving, I'm intentional about. I go get my hair cut an hour away, and that sounds crazy.
Must be a good barber, man.
He actually really is a good barber. Just a good guy, but he'll come out here sometimes. But I go about an hour away every week, and so that's 2 hours that I have one day a week that allows me to gather my thought. When I'm in my office, I don't get a lot of work done as far as planning. So I plan a lot in my head, like on the drive, as I'm listening to audiobooks, listen to a whole lot of John Gordon.
I was going to ask, what are you reading? John Gordon stuff? Anything else?
A lot of his stuff right here. Tim Grover, Winning.
Oh, yeah.
Max Lucado when it comes to faith stuff. But I got a lot of John Gordon right here, and then I do a lot of audiobooks, man. I get a lot from people's story. This is gonna sound crazy, but one of the best books I read this year was 50 Cent's book.
Really? Man, so, is that the Die Rich one or what's the name of that? Coach, I don't know if you've ever heard of The Leftovers, but
I've heard of it. I have not read it.
It's my book, and it's about the Baylor Times. Unfortunately, though, it's not on audiobook. I don't think anybody would want to listen to me like this for hours and hours. But if it was, Coach, would you read it or would you listen to it?
It back there.
It's right there.
That's why I'm like, I've seen
shameless plug right behind my shoulder.
Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter.
Okay.
That's his book. But so this year I've done I Came as a Shadow, John Thompson. Great book. Great book. Ubuntu. I'm sure you've heard of that. If you haven't, Ubuntu.
That's the culture.
It's the culture.
Doc Rivers, right?
Yeah. And it's based on an African proverb. So I read that. But going back to autobiographies, Tim Grover's second book, Winning, the Will Smith book.
How was that?
It was phenomenal.
He's complex, man. He's complex. Yeah.
And so Jamie Foxx has a book. It's really about fatherhood. Agent U by Nicole Lynn. So Nicole Lynn is a big time sports agent, but she's a Black female sports agent, one of the youngest out there, one of the only female sports agents out there that are doing it at a high level. And just, man, I read Kevin Hart's book, but it's incredible to hear the different stories. So I go to Will Smith's for example, like you see this mega superstar, and when he was at the height of everything, it was like he owned July, right? Like there was like a season where like every July 2nd he was coming out with a movie, Independence Day, Men in Black 2, all these different movies, like summers after summer. Wild Wild West was during that time. He's having all the success. He had a hot show. He was a rapper. He had a Grammy. All this, like, but what was going on? And then he started having kids that were doing the same thing. Like when Jaden was doing Karate Kid, and his daughter had a song called "Whip My Hair," and she was like one of the biggest things. Like it seemed like he was having all this success, but what was going on at home wasn't the same thing, and how they viewed him. And I think it's always intriguing to hear the human element of it, of what people are going through, because we think that because somebody is having all the success that they're immune to life and what's going on in their personal lives. And when you get to hear that story, it kind of humanizes them a little bit, and you realize the sacrifices that people have given up to have the success they've had. And sometimes it makes you think, like, do I really want to give up all that and sacrifice some of the things that they had to sacrifice to achieve what they had to achieve, or to do it that way? Like, is there another way that I can, quote unquote, have my cake and eat it too? I mean, for me, I want to be a great father, and I want to be a great husband. And if I can't do those things then I probably don't need to coach. And I probably don't need to coach at certain schools if it means that I can't do those things at a high level. If I can't be a Christian man at that school, because we pray. We pray in practice, we pray in the locker room, pray in staff meetings. If we can't do those things, then I probably don't need to be at that place. And there's certain things that I'm not willing to give up or sacrifice. But it's incredible to hear like going to that Will story, his daughter just one day stopped, like, I'm done with music. He's like, well, no, you just signed with Jay-Z. Like, you can't do that to Jay-Z right now. And his son didn't like him for a little while. It's because of how hard he was, didn't want him on set and different things like that. Obviously his relationship things, and we know he's going through some stuff after the Oscars.
Yeah, tough moment. Yeah.
But just this ultra successful guy that everybody, his success has crossed generations, but to see the behind the scenes human aspect, that's what intrigues me too. I love to see people's success stories because it helps me at least to coach different types of people, to get understanding of what people may be going through. Also, it helps me as far as my career path and the things that I want to do, and to try to learn from people's mistakes. Like, you only see people's successes, but you don't see what it took for people to get there. And I love those stories. And that's why 50 Cent's story, like, 50 Cent is a genius. And I'm going to go on record saying that right now. If you read his book, you're going to be like,
I don't know enough about him to ever make that claim or that statement, but you
probably know more than you think. But
really?
Like right now, he's got some of the hottest shows out right now that he's producing on Stars. But how he started it, like his first season doing a show called Power, he made like 30,000 or something ridiculously small for the season. He bet on himself, but now he's at the point where he has 3 spinoff shows from that one show, and this is what that show has developed into on Stars and that platform, and how he bought Vitamin Water and sold it, and just the little things that he's done throughout his career. That the man is a multi-millionaire, and you would think that just based on how he acts sometimes that he's not very smart, but the man like doesn't really drink. He's always keeping a sober mind. He's very level-headed. He's intentional about the things that he does. When you read his book, he talks about the circle, the people he surrounds himself with, and why he had to cut certain people off, and just how he downsized from a $20 million mansion to what he would like. He's calculated a lot of what he's done, and he tells you the reason why behind it. And he wrote a book to let you know that he's not an idiot. He's very smart in what he's done.
Coach, I'm sold. I'm really gonna look into that. Yeah,
I'm telling you, like, I really changed my perspective on him. Like, whether you can agree with some of the decisions he's made, he's a smart man, and he's very well respected now because of the moves he's made in the film industry, and he's a producer now. He's not really acting, but he's producing behind the scenes, and he's making a killing, and he's very intentional about it. And it's just like, I think you can learn from people's successes and failures, and that's why I'm into autobiographies right now a lot, because I think people have interesting stories, and it takes a lot to get there. So
what great reminders, and I love how we flowed, into that, and because making your car your mobile classroom is something that I've forgotten to do quite a bit, but I've heard that term, and that's really what you've done. And it also takes us to, the last question, which is, 9 years now at Commerce.
I just finished my 8th season, so I'm going into year 9.
Going into finished your 8th.
That's as head coach. So I started my career here. I'm actually going into year 13 overall.
Okay.
Because I spent 4 years here on the men's side when I first started my career.
8 years, and you're already the winningest coach from your program, correct?
Yes.
Which you probably don't pay as much attention to that, but I looked it up, but so all of that success in such a short amount of time. I think so many coaches, we all want success. We want to see our program win and do well and win championships, and on the personal side, to be, winning as coach or to have those accolades is great. How do you sustain that? Because so many times when you take over a program, I think quite often it's at the bottom or in a bad place, and you instantly. If you have a good plan, you can get some success, but then keeping it is like, that's what makes, to me, Coach K just so incredible, is not just that he's had some wins, the sustained success.
Yeah.
What are some ways that you've been able to do that?
Man, I told Coach Walker, that, like, so my mentor, the guy that brought me in this business, the men's coach for a long time. He's the all-time winners coach on the men's side. I told him, man, I this was last week. I said, man, I really respect what you did, because he was here for 20 plus years. I want to say 16 as the head coach. But it's incredibly hard to sustain success, especially like things like what I'm going through right now, as far as a whole new staff. And so 2 years ago, I had to not take that back. Not 2 years ago, last year, I lost 3 of my 4 assistant coaches last year, and all of them went to. 2 of them were GAs, so they were graduating. It was their time. There wasn't a full-time position for them to move into, but they both got full-time Division II jobs with salary, benefits, all that. And then I ended up losing Gene to Howard, so I lost 3 coaches last year. But I still have my associate head coach. Now I'm losing my associate head coach and 2 other assistant coaches, and it's like, it's one thing, you have to win to stay at the place that you're at. Otherwise, they're going to get rid of you.
Yeah.
And like we said, kind of a pre-show, like, when you win, there are unintentional consequences that you don't think of. And you expect to lose an assistant coach or 2 from your year when you're having success, but you never expect to lose all of them. So to constantly have to replace people, hire new people, get them to buy into the culture, believe in the culture, sell you, is tough when you have to do that year in and year out. Plus, man, as you know, when players change, and like, it's not every 4 years, sometimes it's every 2 years. And like, your seniors, especially like right now in COVID, when you have the COVID seniors who are 22, 23 years old, they've been around the block, they've done it before, and you have 18-year-olds on your roster, and they're 2 completely different people.
Yeah.
One, based on how they were brought up, but 2, just their mental place now. Like, they're in a different stage of life, and constantly having to get them to buy in, to be on the same page, and to do it at the same place. And you get, like, the longer I'm here, you get turnover. Like, it's just crazy to say, but I am the second most tenured. No, I take it back. Me and the volleyball coach are the most tenured coaches in our athletic department. Most tenured people. Our AD's been here 7 years. I've been here 8. And so, but if you add the 4 years before, they've been here 12 total. So it's just not a lot of people that have been here. So just to see the constant turnover and to try to maintain a culture has been one of the hardest things that I've had to do. But I'll say this, like, we built it the right way. That's the reason why we've been able to sustain it, because we didn't have a plan where we were going to get success overnight, right? Like, it was our first year, and we took over a 2-win program the previous year. They had won 26 games in 5 years prior to us coming, but we were 14-14, and 16-13, and a 21 season, an 18-win season, a 21 season. Like, it was slow progress, but getting the right people and establishing how we're going to do things and being consistent in how we're going to do things. It's just taking time. And I think that's different than what people want right now. People want that instant success. Like, I want to come in here, I want to do this, boom, I want to get out. And I'm gonna be honest with you, man. Like, that was my intention when I first got this job. My intention was, let me go to Commerce, let me be there for 2 or 3 years, let me win at a high level, and let me go get a Division I job. I was very selfish when I first got this job, and God had different plans for me. 2 months onto my job, my 2 captains passed away in a car accident. And I felt like at that point, we had just finished recruiting. I felt like we had a team that could go and dominate. We could win right away, and it could be about me and what I was going to do and what I was going to do next. And then God forced me to make sure that for this season that my players were okay. Like, pour into these young women, and make sure that it's not about basketball. It's not about what you win. It's about, let's make sure that these young ladies are able to get through the season, that you help to heal a community, that you just be a man of God. And so it forced us to have individual relationships and individual meetings every week with these players. And it forced me to like realize that the first time I met the parents of the two young ladies that passed away in a car accident was one was in the hospital, one was at the morgue.
Wow.
And that's not how you want to meet people. Like I probably should have done things differently. I probably should have reached out to the parents and things like that when I got the job. Or it just makes you think, and maybe it doesn't happen like that all the time, but it's like, man, wow, this is not how you want to be meeting somebody for the first time. And it made me realize that it's about something bigger than me, and it's easy to get caught up and get selfish in this business and wrap your mind around with what you want to do and the things you want to achieve. And I am the all-time winners coach here. But it's funny, man. Like that was a goal of mine at one point for it to happen, but I really like now I'm at the point where, man, how many lives have we impacted? Like it's fun. Like Empower Hour is one of the most fun times I have because we had 3 former players this year come back and speak to our team. It's like, first of all, I'm getting old that I have former players that want to come back and speak to our team. But it's cool to be in that space, man. That one, your alums want to come back and they want to pour in, and it's their time to like jab back at me, you know, when they're but you can just tell they're in a different space in life, and it's cool to see that, man, they made it, and it's cool for them to come back and like, man, I can remember being here, and them telling the stories about how they wish they would have done things a little bit differently. And that's what it's about for me is the impact that we're making on people. It makes this job fun because there's a lot of challenges, but in this job, but seeing kids that don't believe they can graduate, finally graduate, seeing kids turn the corner on things and start to figure out life, man. It's why I'm coaching. I've been able to find my why. I think that's one of the most important things, man. Is I came back here because God had a plan for me to find my why and how I'm going to impact people. And I'm far from perfect, and I don't make an impact on everybody that I want to make like I think I should. But you know, I think we're in a business where we got a chance to change lives. Everybody doesn't view it that way, but that's what I want to do is be a change agent for people, and help them to navigate life and you know, instill belief and help them to be better than how they came here. And so if I'm able to do that, man, then I'm doing it right. And that's how I think we've been able to sustain success here. Is I think that our intentions are right. I think we do things the right way. We've been able to get some really good kids because of that. And you know, now players come to campus and they sell themselves, right? Like it's not me speaking. It's coming from a place of just, we can be genuine and they can be genuine. I don't have to worry about which players that they get assigned to. Like they come and they just hang out and they don't have to sell the recruits when they come here. It's genuine. And that's one of the things that I feel like it took some time to get to that point, but now we're there, and it's been a beautiful thing for us. So that's why it's been extremely hard for me to want to go anywhere, because we're doing it right here.
And well said. And thank you so much for sharing all of those details. And I think there's something to be said for, it's a hard spot to get to, but if you can get to a spot where you have the feeling of like contentment is viewed negatively in the world quite a bit as almost lazy or complacent, but contentment is feeling like you're where you're supposed to be, and when you can be in that place but then also remain open to possibilities, if God opens doors for you, even though you're more than willing to be faithful in the place that you are, man, like that's a sweet place to be. And I feel like that's where you are.
No, you're exactly right. It's crazy because I've had some opportunities over the last few years and nothing has felt right.
Yeah.
And one thing too, you get married, you have kids, and you gotta make family decisions too. And man, it's been such a blessing for me. And you can see my family in the background right here, but got a 2-year-old. And when I grew up, I didn't have my grandparents in my life. I'm from Michigan originally. We moved to Texas, away from all of our family. And he's got his grandparents here. He's got and that watch him on a regular basis. COVID happened. My mother-in-law retired. She watches. She stays from Sunday to Thursday at our house and watches him. And it's a beautiful thing to be able to see your son being raised by a relative and a grandparent. And my mom spends time with him on Fridays, and so he's having his lineage pour into him. And you can't put a price on that. That's a special thing. My wife loves her job, and so I hear what you're saying about contentment. And it is viewed bad. I've heard all the time early in my career. The first 3-4 years, they were all like, "You got to get out." And why you can't? First time we had a 21 season, you got to get out. You don't want to get stuck there. I'm like, I'm not stuck. We're building something
that shows a little bit about their mindset and where they're at.
Yeah. So it's been a beautiful thing, man, and we got something special going. And I'm gonna be where God wants me to be, and right now, and it's been in Commerce, Texas, and I feel like we still have. It's funny. I talk to my brothers all the time. I'm very close to my brothers, and for a while I've had an itch to get back to the Division I level, but wasn't just going to leave or anything. And it's funny, man, that you do things the right way, and we've taken care of this place, and then God says, you know what? I'm making Division I, and I'm gonna make a Division I where you're currently at. You don't got to go anywhere. This is where you're supposed to at, and I'm going to bless you too. Yeah. And so it's exciting to be able to be in the same place, but have a new challenge and new opportunity to take this place to Division I. And so it's funny, man. It's when you remain faithful, how God will open doors and bless your life. And so, man, I'm excited about this new challenge, this new journey for us, and excited to be able to do it here where we built it.
The Jamodi Podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products. Last thing before I let you go is the speed round. A lot of coaches, like I've actually known about you and followed you, and especially like TABC is, I feel like it's been you've been involved with that in the past, right? With TABC in some certain ways. So yeah, I just feel like you're kind of everywhere, and but not after people hear you answer the questions of the speed round, we'll really know who you are.
Okay.
All right. Quick ones. Favorite ice cream flavor?
Ooh, mint chocolate chip.
Oh, that's the same.
It's really not mint chocolate chip. I don't know why that came.
Oh, gosh.
I do like mint chocolate chip. It's probably the chocolate chip.
My favorite's mint chocolate chip. So here I feel this connection, and then you quickly turn it off.
I normally just eat brownies and ice cream. So if I'm gonna eat ice cream, it's gonna be like vanilla with brownies. Like
that's fair. That's
my go-to.
For high school, shot clock or no shot clock?
Shot clock.
Yeah. Texting or talking?
Talking.
Favorite music?
It depends.
Oh,
it depends.
Okay. Good answer.
It depends.
I feel bad. Sometimes I've been able to do this quite a bit now. And so like, I kind of feel like there's an answer in my head that I feel is right, but it's your answer.
There's a lot of times I don't want to talk.
Yeah, you can get a lot more done quicker here, but the relationship piece to me, I got to talk to my mom more than I need to text my mom.
It's funny because talking is probably third to me because FaceTime is probably top
good
2.
call. Yeah. Favorite holiday?
Christmas.
Favorite genre of music?
Ooh, depends on the day, but it goes. I mean, it's gospel, hip hop, and R&B.
Nice.
But most mornings start with gospel.
Yeah. Invisibility or super strength?
Invisibility.
Does that surprise you?
I really wanted to say fly, but that wasn't an option. I don't know what super strength is going to do for me right now.
That's true. Coach, don't fly away from there. Just stay put. Yeah. If you could travel back in time, what period would you go to?
That's a great question.
And let me you could just visit and view it. You don't have to be in it.
I'm gonna go biblical for a second. I just want to see. I want to see Jesus while he was here, because you hear about all these miracles and all these things that go on. I just would like to have seen, like, I would have liked to have been able to witness some of those things. Like, just not a time period before I was born, and I'm like, oh, I wish I could have seen this or that. Like, and I don't need to go back and relive anything I've done. I would like to have seen some of those things, like, and then come back, because what a story would you have to tell? Like, look, I've seen this.
Yeah. This was legit. Favorite childhood TV show, since you and I think are similar in age?
I have 3. Me and my wife were talking about this yesterday, as a matter of fact, and it's Fresh Prince.
Yep.
It's Martin, and it's Jamie Foxx, the Jamie Foxx show.
Oh, I forgot about Martin. There's some gold there for sure. 2 more. How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
At least 1 tall one. Sometimes 2, depending on the day.
How do you drink it?
I drink it with sugar-free caramel.
This is honesty time.
And I lost some pounds just cutting out the sugar in my coffee.
Yeah, it's incredible the calories that we drink.
Yes, I've started not drinking calories, and I've lost weight just not drinking calories. My face should be a lot fatter than this. And,
all right, last one. Godfather, Star Wars, or it could be neither.
Neither.
What types of movies, or like maybe your favorite movies?
I'm a big fan of actors.
Okay. So like anything Will Smith.
Anything Will Smith or Denzel. I'm pretty in.
Give me your best Denzel movie.
Ooh, I wanted to say Training Day, but
that was literally in my head, Training Day. But man, it's kind of hard to do. American Gangster.
I was thinking about that. I was thinking about He Got Game. No, it's not. There's so many. Like, I'm a Denzel fan. Like, he's really good. But just like I like movies, but out of like the Godfather type, I probably would go Scarface before Godfather.
That's fair. Unfortunately, I'm a Star Wars guy, but I also grew up with it, and there's the connection with the dark and light.
My favorite trilogy. I'll give you my 2 favorite.
Yeah, go ahead.
Bad Boys, because I'm again Will Smith. But what's the Matt Damon one?
Born Supremacy, or all those.
Born, that's my favorite.
Before the Bourne movies, I never thought that Matt Damon could be that.
No, but I like that.
But he was great.
Jason Bourne's my guy. Yeah,
that's right. Well, Coach, this was, so enjoyable just to get to learn more about you, about your program, and even, some of the struggles, because everybody wants to get to the top of the mountain, but staying there is really hard, and it has some obstacles that you just don't really ever hear about. So thank you for sharing today, man.
Yeah, this was awesome. It was great perspective. It was good to get my mind thinking about certain things, man, and thinking about the culture and thinking about everything, man. This was great. Needed it, and really enjoyed it, man. So I appreciate it.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi Podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.